Okay, everybody, it is the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Hopefully you can enjoy some dinner or a snack or just a quick break from your studying. Your noon sessions are just packed so full, and I definitely wanted to get this training out to you guys before OCI start if that was something that you're interested in participating in. So again, thank you for joining me tonight. We're going to talk about going beyond the potential employer's website. So whether that's a firm, whether that's an attorney, whether that's a judge, they may not have their own website, but the court probably does. Usually when you're preparing for an interview, I would hope that you would at least do that, right? Do a quick Google search and see where they come up. But the problem is everyone else is doing that also. So how do you prove that you did that little extra to know a little bit more about who you're sitting down in front of? Or on the flip side, to decide if you even want to apply to their position in the first place. Or if you want to accept their position, if they offer it, how do you choose between the two? Of course, I can't do all of that for you, but I can help you do a little bit of extra research into those to try and make those decisions. So we'll keep it to 20 minutes and you guys will all receive 350 points. I don't think I have to tell you, any of you, but that's a $5 gift card. So let's go ahead and dive in. If you have any questions at any point in this, please go ahead and put them in the chat. If I don't see them while I'm running through it, I'll stick around afterwards and definitely get to them. So what are we going to talk about today? Lexis has an interview prep microsite that I'm going to show you guys, and it's actually really great. It's got some little snippets of videos depending on what you're looking about doing, and it also leads you to other helpful websites. Some of those we'll talk about tonight, but I will for sure follow up with a link to that microsite. We'll also be looking at Law 360 Legal News. So that's an external subscription-based legal news service that you guys have access to under your Lexis IDs for law school. So I'll show you how to get on that. And then finally, we'll look at the actual Lexis platform. So you guys are used to looking at cases, secondary materials, statutes, but let's look at some of those other sources to look at more news, legal news, also how to find out which cases and everything that your attorney's been counsel of record on really easily. Just go right there and find those. And then we'll also look at some data and language analytics. So when we start really doing that deep dive into the language that your judge uses or comparing litigation trends against attorneys or firms, we'll take a peek at that as well. So we will go ahead and get started on this interview microsite. Now, unfortunately, it's a bit hard to find at the moment. If you Google LexisNexis interview prep, it'll come up. It used to be a spinning banner on the main law school homepage, but it inadvertently got removed. So we've asked them to add that back there. But I will definitely give you guys the link to this site because, like I said, it's got a lot of great information on it. The Zoom controls are killing me every single time. If you scroll down, you're going to find some quick videos. So they've been created by attorneys in my position all across the country, and I actually did one of them as well to put on this page. And so we do a little bit of everything. So researching through the directories, doing some quick employer search. I did the one on getting to know the attorneys, and so we'll go over that a little bit more today. But if you wanted to go back and have a refresher of any of those videos, they're here for you, and they're all really short, like 3 minutes. If we scroll down a little bit further, then it kind of gets into the meat of things. So some rankings. If you're really going out there and you're targeting different firms or different places where you want to specifically find a job or try and market yourself to, we have a lot of different rankings available that you can start scouring those. Scroll down further, we've got a direct link to Law 360, which we'll go in a second. You can also get into some of those analytics that we'll also look at. But then if you keep scrolling down, we also go into building and polishing your resume. So some just one-page handouts on some tips for what to include in your resume, some tips on doing your pre-work before your interviews. And then we also have a link to the Lexis Legal Research Certification. So it's a great program to go through. It's 3 quick modules, and then you can add that to your resume to show employers that you have gone, again, above and beyond what the average student has done. Go down a little bit further, then we've got some specific links to some public interest or practice area specific resources. So our Equal Justice Practice Center, Law 360 Access to Justice, Equal Justice Works, just some different links that we think would be helpful for you there. I'm now going to go ahead and I could go up here and go to law360.com that way, except I already lost it. So I'm just going to open this up over here. Now, as I mentioned, this is just law360.com. It's just that simple. It's a subscription-based legal news service. So attorneys have to pay to receive this. It's definitely the leader in its field for legal news service. And you guys have access to this under your law school ID. So when you're on campus, it's super simple. You just sign on to law360.com. It IP authenticates, however that works with the Wi-Fi on campus, and it knows that you're on the University of Montana subscription. When you're at home, however, or off campus, we have to do things a little bit differently. So when you go to law360.com, what's probably going to happen is a free trial box is going to pop up. So you're going to want to X out of that. Don't sign up for the free trial. If you do, it just locks you in there. It just kind of mumbles things up a little bit. But you're going to want to go over here on the upper left to My Account because you already have one. And you're just going to go into My Account and then scroll down. So don't do what I did here where it's prompting a sign in. You're going to want to scroll down to where it says sign in with LexisNexis. And then you can sign in with your Lexis credentials and have full access to all of the content on Law360. If you have any problems with that, just let me know though, and I can reach out to Law360. So why do I like this site? I like this site because it gives you the information that the attorneys in the field that you are purporting to show an interest in are talking about on a daily basis. So for example, I have an intellectual property firm that I call on here in Spokane. I don't know anything about intellectual property, but luckily I know enough to have an educated conversation because I've subscribed to the Intellectual Property Law 360 newsletter. And so every day I'm getting, here, I'll show you. We'll go into the section. You can go up here, see all sections. And then we have all of these different areas of law. So if I went into the intellectual property one, for example, this is what I've subscribed to. So every day I get the title and then like the first paragraph or the summary sentence, and it's enough for me to know what the attorneys are going to be talking about. You see things that are coming through. Okay, this is obviously key, or the court's taking up this issue or that issue, and it gives you enough of that talking point to stay in the know, but not having to do that deep dive into like a treatise on a particular area of law. So you could sign up for any of these different sections, or you could do multiple if you want to. Just go into whichever one's of interest to you, and then you're going to see up here in the top right, create a newsletter. And then that's going to send you the Law 360 legal news for employment law or intellectual property or bankruptcy or whatever you sign up for. And like I said, I just think it's a really great step to take to proactively educate yourself on the area of law that you purport to be interested in. Just going to close this out so that I don't get any more messages there. Sorry about that, guys. So then what you could also do is you could run a search across this site, obviously. So getting back to our firm or our attorney, what I can do is I can run a search for them across the top. So say I was looking for, or I was preparing to interview in front of Crowley Fleck. I'll just go ahead and I will run a search for them. And then I have all the legal news that Crowley Fleck has been involved with most recently. And from here, I could also set an alert up at the top of this page to get those new articles again in my inbox. So just remember, you can search by attorney, you can search by firm, you can type in different terms or something that's of interest to you there. And I just think that Law 360 legal news is a really fantastic news source, and it keeps it short, it's well written, and it's enough, like I said, to keep you abreast. So now I'm going to go ahead and go on to the Lexis platform because I want to show you some of the resources that are on here as well. Like I mentioned, we're talking about cases and statutes, but let's think about other ways that we can use these resources to do some research into the people we're going to be interviewing in front of. So let's say that we have learned that we are interviewing with Crowley Fleck, and we know that the attorney that's interviewing us is going to be Kelsey Bunkers. And we want to do everything we can to search and see how she comes up. And so what we can do is we can go ahead and we can run a search for her name. So Kelsey, I'm going to do within 2 of her last name. That within 2 is going to account for any middle name, any middle initial, any maiden name, any variation of that. I just find that when you have names involved, it's really helpful to put that /2 in the middle of them to keep them really closely related, but still to account for anything that might be in the middle of the first and last name. That would go for male or female, also goes for firms. I just find that that's a really good, helpful /2. So I can go ahead and I can run that search across all of the content, but what I want us to focus in on over on the left, we'll get back to the cases in just a second. Over on the left, I want you to focus in on 2 main categories. The first one's going to be news. So this is going to be anything that's not geared towards the legal community. So newspapers, blogs, website posts or something like that, anything that comes through as a news periodical. The reason why I like looking in the quote unquote regular news as well, because this is going to be a really great place to find out what are they passionate about. Are they in the news because they are board members of a particular organization, or are they volunteering for certain things? Are they a part of different volunteer projects, different passion projects? And you can find that. And if you could bring up to Kelsey, hey, I saw that you were involved with the Humane Society and their fun run that they did in 2019, what happened in 2020? How did you guys account for that? Like showing her that you did that extra research will just really make you stand out there. So do double check that news category. And then you can also double check the legal news from here as well. So legal news is going to include Law 360 that we already ran a search on, but it's also going to include any other legal news publication as well. So you can scroll through those. If you wanted to, you could narrow down over on the left by particular practice areas. If it's the news, I would probably just browse it all. But what I do find helpful to do on the news is over on the right to change the sort order. So instead of by relevance, I'll change it date newest to oldest, just to find more recently what she's been involved with. I would then want to set an alert at the top of the page. So say my interview's in 2 weeks. I don't have time to go in here every day and run her name. I can just set that alert and Lexis will go ahead and they will run it for me. And I could even select multiple categories, say run it in the news and the legal news, and just let me know if Kelsey's mentioned in any time. And then we could make sure and be aware of that and bring that up in our interview if it was pertinent. Now let's say we want to find any cases where Kelsey has been of record, or maybe where Crowley Fleck has been of record. We just want to see the types of cases that they're working on. Maybe we know a little bit that they hold themselves out to be employment attorneys, but we don't know if they're generally representing the employer or the employee, and maybe that would make a difference to us, depending on what side we want to be on. So we want to dig into those cases a little bit more and see what they're involved with. So it's a really quick way to just find the cases where they're mentioned as attorney of record and not mentioned like in the opinion somewhere. And in order to pull that up over on the right under advanced search, under the search box, we're going to pull that up and it's going to open up an advanced search page where we're going to have different segment fields if we scroll down. Now, every document on Lexis you can think of as divided into those different lines, and each line or each segment is independently searchable. So in our case, when we're looking for the attorney of record, we just want to search that one attorney line. And so what it's going to say is it's going to say, what type of content are you searching? Because different content types are going to have different lines. So I'm going to say, well, I am looking for the cases category. And then it's going to just kind of open up all of the different segments that you could search within these cases. And so if we scroll down, we're going to find that we come to attorney name. Notice we also have judges. So if you were applying for a clerkship, you'd want to search for your judge here. But if we're in this case had an attorney name, let's go ahead and just search for any cases involving or where any attorney from Crowley Fleck was of record. And here you'll notice I'm doing the same exact thing. That's just because maybe, 5 years ago, there was another partner involved and I don't know. I just want to account for a little bit of everything. So I find that /2 does me well most of the time. And then what I see up here at the top of the screen is that Lexis has already crafted this specific equation for me. It's going to search the attorney segment for Crowley within 2 of Fleck. Again, going to get my Zoom controls out of the way. And we're going to run that search. And so now we have all of the cases involving Crowley Fleck. We probably don't need all of them, but maybe just the ones from the last couple of years. So I'm going to go over to timeline and say, just show me the ones in the last, 2 years or so. I can go ahead and I can update that. You can also narrow in by practice area if you know which practice group you're going to be either interviewing with or applying for. And then you can even narrow in further. Remember, these were all the Crowley Flecks if we start kind of scrolling through here. But then we learn, oh, they call us and we learn who we're interviewing with. Then we can go in and we can even look under attorney and specifically go in further under that attorney field and pull up any of cases involving, say, let's pick Colette. So not only just Crowley Fleck, but also Colette at Crowley Fleck. And then we have the cases that were involving her. And again, we could set an alert so that this automatically runs and we get notified of any new cases that come down. One word to the wise. Make sure you note the shepherd's treatment on any cases. If it's something that's really interesting to you and you think you're definitely going to want to bring it up, just double check the shepherd's treatment and just make sure it's not something that was maybe overruled on appeal. Maybe they won it and then they ended up losing it. You just kind of want to be mindful of what memories you're bringing back to them. So just something to keep in mind, just make sure that shepherdize it, make sure it didn't end up going the wrong way for them in the future. One other thing then, back on the main Lexis page, let's say you are hoping to either get involved with a firm or an attorney that does a ton of litigation, or you want to make sure you're not involved with an attorney who does a ton of litigation. You just kind of want to see what their numbers for litigation in federal court look like. We have a brand new feature over here on the left under litigation analytics. And we'll get more into this as the semester goes on. But basically, it's data analytics for a variety of different things. You could look at courts, you could look at judges to determine the timing that it takes to get through the whole process. But you can also compare counsel. So if you had maybe two firms that were offering you positions, or you had two attorneys that you were maybe trying to decide between, let's go best case scenario, right? You could compare those two and see how their litigation numbers compare. So let me just go ahead and try Kelsey Bunkers again. You just type their name in and it comes up. And then I'm also going to try a Jason Piskel. I went to law school with him in Spokane, just came to mind. So I'll go ahead and I'll compare those two, but you could compare up to 4. You could also compare law firms. And then what it's going to show you is just basically the data on their litigation, again, like I said, in federal court. So we first see how active they are year over year. So you can kind of see, oh gosh, it's a lot of litigation, or that's not really as much as I was hoping for. You can then see, do they represent the plaintiff or the defendant more often? What types of cases are they hearing or, litigating? And then once you get down here a little bit further, it doesn't look like we have a ton of information on this, but what we would see would be timing. So it looks like we don't have enough. We need at least 10 cases, but it would tell us the length of time that they normally spend at trial, or the length of time that it normally takes them to conclude the case on summary judgment or something like that, just so you can kind of get a glimpse of what their day-to-day actions look like. So just be aware of that's there. It's kind of a fun thing to play around with at the moment. The last thing I wanted to show you, we've talked a lot about attorneys. We mentioned judges just quickly. Remember, you can search for that judge opinion for the cases. But we also have some really cool analytics on judges. And what you can do for a judge is you can just go ahead and you can type in their name. It's Lexis Answers triggers it. So I usually like to do who is. But you don't have to. You could just do judge, whatever their name is. But I'm going to say, who is Judge Brian Morris? I'm going to type that into the search box, and you're going to see some questions are suggested for me. And it's going to ask me which Judge Morris were you looking for? And it turns out right here, Chief Judge Brian Morris is exactly who I was looking for. And so I can click on that, and it's going to pull up an answer card for this judge. And it's made me nervous there for a second. What you're going to see is just a quick overview. You've got a quick little bio about him. You've got his recent opinions here. You could search through those recent opinions, so much like we did with an attorney. We also see quickly the opinions that were cited by others that were of his, and then also opinions that he cited too. So just kind of a quick overview. But then we have access to some really cool analytical information over here on the right. So the first one's going to be Lex Machina. And Lex Machina is data analytics. So just like we were looking at the data analytics for those attorneys, the length of time that they're in court, the types of cases that they're litigating and stuff like that, you have that same information available for judges as well. So you could go in and quickly see the types of cases that they hear, again, compared to kind of the rest of the court. You can also scroll down and start to see that timing that we talked about. So here you can see that generally cases are dismissed within 231 days is like the median. So you can see, how long are these cases going to be on his bench? Generally they resolve summary judgment within 424 days. And so you can just kind of see how those cases are getting resolved and how long that's taking in front of him. Another cool thing we can do, if I'm going to go back, just went back to Lexis now, so I'm viewing that answer card again, right under Lex Machina for our last 1 minute, I'm going to show you context. So context is our legal language analytics platform. So not just the data, so how many, but actually the language. So we've gone through all of his case law opinions and we're showing you the language that he cites to most often. So you're seeing here first on the overview pages, again, more data, get a quick glimpse at what he did before the bench. That's great to kind of educate yourself on. But the magic really happens over here in the middle on this analytics tab. So here you're going to have his ruling history on a variety of different types of motions. So this is really great if you're practicing in front of him. You knew you were going to bring a motion to dismiss. How likely is he to grant or deny that motion? And then you can see here it's about 50-50. Green is he granted it, red he's denied it. And then you can specifically zero in on just show me the cases where he granted that motion to dismiss so that I know the language that he used or the cases he relied upon so I can kind of cite that back to him. But if you're looking at going in front of him or interviewing with him, these citation patterns can be really helpful because if you go under those, it's showing you the cases that he cites to most often. So the ones that he finds the most precedential, the most influential, but then also the judges that he cites to most often. So kind of where does his jurisprudence lie? Who does he find to be persuasive or precedential in that matter. And you can kind of be, talking, maybe get to know these people a little bit more as well. He cites to himself most often, which believe it or not, is not that uncommon. Most judges do cite to their own opinions, but you can kind of look at, these next couple down and get familiarize yourself with those judges as well to get a quick peek about it. And so that's context. And we will have attorney analytics coming soon as well. I'm excited to see that. I'm guessing it's going to be language that attorneys use in their briefs and motions most often. That's going to be released like the first week of March. So be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, I'm a minute over, so my apologies, but thank you for sticking with me. If you guys have any questions, I will stick around. Otherwise, I'll follow up with an email with some direct links and your points, and have a wonderful rest of your night.
Thanks, Courtney.
You're welcome. Have a great night.